Hey guys, how you doing? It's the Honeydew Carpenter and the beautiful Mrs. Honeydew Carpenter. And we're in our shop. The reason I'm doing this in the shop is because it's so hard to see the screen when I'm out in the broad daylight. So that's why we're here today. But I just wanted to give a big thank you to all of our viewers and kind of give a big shout out to them. We checked our analytics this morning and we were at, let me see, 1,998,268 as of about an hour ago or so. So we're going to go over the 2 million views for our channel. So it is just still an infant fledgling channel, but it's growing and we're going rapidly, and that's all due to you guys. Awesome hands, sweetie.
I know. Sorry about that. I wanted to make sure my ringtones and things were turned down so we didn't get a rude, gummy bear again.
Facho Graphics, hi.
Just Sandy, hi.
Scott.
Says hi. Hey guys and girls. Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's not just a guy.
So you guys, it has been raining cats and dogs here.
Yeah, they actually, it was kind of crazy because just a couple days ago we went down to the park and had some family pictures taken down by the river. And literally, in a matter of hours, the river rose 4 feet. It was crazy. And I actually went down there and took some video of it. I was walking across a walk bridge that went across the top of the dam, and the water was actually touching the bottom of the bridge. A log came when I was walking by and shook the bridge, and it was eerie. It scared me. But so we've been a little bit inhibited on our pouring. We're excited because today we have the weather going our way, so we're going to go out and we're just going to pour all day and get as many of these panels poured as we can. Our main goal is to, as soon as possible, we just want to start standing these panels up and making this thing look like a shed or a building. And what's kind of neat about it is this is something that somebody, if they had any type of a shop or a garage or whatnot, and an indoor facility, they could even do this when the weather is bad and just build these panels and build them and build them and build them. And then in the spring, they could do it all through the winter. And then in the spring, when at their leisure, and in the spring when the weather broke, they could go out and put them up.
Yeah.
So that's our goal, is to just kind of put out a PDF with a simple shed that people can reconstruct and do. Um, Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about our Kickstarter and why we're doing it. I've seen some videos out there where people have been mixing like uh, aircrete with um, graphene, which is a nano material. And I've been following those guys um, about this nanotechnology for at least 10 years now. And I am all about it. It's awesome stuff. But that's the reason I want a laboratory. Because when you take Portland cement, all it is a paste or a cement that is meant to bind aggregates together to make a strong, what they call a concrete. When you're working in an aircrete and those caverns where aggregate would normally be are just filled with air, well then you're going to need some kind of when this stuff sets up, some symmetry, kind of like a honeycomb situation to create strength in it. And I really believe that's doable, and I really believe it's possible. When you look at Portland cement and how it's made, they just basically take limestone and they put it through a kiln until it just barely starts to melt, and it hasn't met liquefaction, doesn't completely go liquid, and you get these little round balls called about the size of marbles called clinker, and then they grind them up. And basically all they're doing is decarbonating lime so that it has a molecule that when you hydrate it with H2O or water, it creates a chemical reaction, and it flashes off and sets up. They actually have to add gypsum into Portland cement to keep it from flashing off and getting hard too quickly because that chemical reaction. And so I love the idea of adding these nanomaterials and this nanotechnology in there. But I think in my best opinion, I think using that technology to strengthen aircrete is going to end up coming from creating a aggregate from these really strong nano molecules or whatever. They take them down to the atom level, obviously.
That sounds quite amazing.
But I've been reading about it. But that's why I want a laboratory, guys. That's why, and I'm gonna get it, regardless of whether we do a Kickstarter or regardless of whether it gets funded. I'm gonna have a laboratory. I just want to give people an opportunity to give a boost to this thing and get us a lab so we can get started doing a bunch of research on this aircrete thing. These nanotechnology has just been around, the last decade to any large extent. There's a ton of lightweight aggregates that have just been launched and been around, these expanded shells and grouts and stuff that we can use for aggregate and aircrete just in the last year or two. So this, where we can go, oh yeah, where we can go with this aircrete and to get it hydrated to this high level and still maintain strength. So it's light and it's strong and it's a great building material. That's what I'm after. And I think with a combination of nanotechnologies and a combination of this different fibers that you can bond in there, and I think we could use like nanotechnology as well to create a greater bond to any fibers you do put in.
So Bert says $16K in a year is impressive. Well, thank you, and we're very, very excited.
Yeah.
It's been quite a fun journey.
Yeah.
Sammy says it held golf balls a couple nights ago.
In Colorado?
In Colorado.
I'm feeling you, bud.
Your car was underneath it? Ugh. I hope your car isn't too bad.
I had one viewer ask if we lived in Tornado Alley because we've had several touch down here. And we were just having golf ball size hail a couple weeks ago. So
how did they get so much graphene into a large of an aircrete surface? It's pretty time consuming even to make a small amount of graphene.
Oh, I know, and that's the thing. They're improving their production methods to create more and more graphene. But as it is right now, and just mixing it into like a foam solution. Because graphene is at an atomic level and, the surfactants and whatnot, I think would just separate them. I don't think it would really affect the strength of aircrete a whole ton at this point. And so that's why I'm thinking that any strength that comes from a nanotechnology is probably going to come from creating an artificial aggregate that is super lightweight but super strong, using nanotechnology and being able to bind those cells at a molecular level and create a super strong, because you look at graphene, it's like 10 times stronger than steel, and it can be stretched to a quarter of its length without breaking and whatnot, and it conducts electricity at like 5 times the rate of any normal conductor that we know of today. There's a bunch of technologies where they're coming out with going to use it in batteries, quick charge batteries that charge 5 times as fast and whatnot. And I just saw somebody experimenting with it in aircrete, but just in my opinion, I think if we were going to use nanotechnology in an aircrete, it would probably be to create a super strong aggregate. Because Portland cement, as it is right now, when it does the flash off and the chemical reaction with water, is really super strong. I mean, if you have the right aggregates, you can easily make a 7,500 psi, pounds per square inch concrete mix. We did it all the time for bridge abutments. The reason why aircrete is so kind of brittle at this point and not as strong is because we're replacing that aggregate with just pockets of air. And so I think creating a manufacturable lightweight aggregate is the way to go, and that's what I'm going to mainly want to
Have
experiment
you done
with.
a test on the center point of one of the first panels?
What do you, a test on
Yeah.
the center point?
Yeah. One of the very first panels that you poured in the
Oh, for the,
aircrete shed, have you done a test on that first one with the chicken prints in it?
oh, compression test?
Any test.
I haven't, no. In fact, I'm going to use that panel. I'm actually, that panel wasn't poured with my final mix that I'm using for the rest of the wall panels. I did lighten it up a little bit because after I did like a set of 12 panels, and after they cured out, I did a couple of them at a little lighter weight, and after they cured out, I was really happy with the results. And Mrs. Honeydew, I picked this one up, and it was pretty light. And you know, I was thumping it and seeing how hollow it was, and I think the way it's set up, it's awesome for a shed and for insulation. And on the bottom side where we had the wire mesh, it seemed to be just super strong, like a paintable surface. And so I'm just gonna change that. And so what I'm doing is I'm gonna make just like a 2 foot by 2 foot square to do a bunch of, you know, tests to just beat on it, compress it, shoot it, whatever.
Have you considered aluminum powder as a foaming agent?
To mix in with the actual foam, no. I have considered it to put in the dry mix, because what happens is with aluminum powder, it creates an additional chemical reaction while the concrete is flashing off, and it releases a gas, and it will further aerate and expand the aircrete. And so I don't know. I was able to just use straight foam, and as long as I put in some hydrated lime and whatnot to help it flash off a little quicker and become stiffer quicker, I was able to get the same effect as you would get from using aluminum powder. I got an extremely aerated product. I don't know how aluminum would affect.
Will your lab have equipment to enable nano level observations?
Eventually, I would like it to. I would like to be able to look at these things under a microscope at a microscopic level. If we are ever to, initially, we're going to want to just do what we have and what's available DIY to everybody right now. We're just going to want to start doing lab tests and compression tests and air entrainment tests for the samples, so that we have that data before it sets up, you know, and then crush those samples and get the strongest mix possible for people to use on a DIY level. But I am going to start experimenting with these expanded lightweight aggregates, and I am going to start doing research and experimenting with how we can create an artificial lightweight aggregate out of stuff that's readily available, and create something even better in the future. Will it be at ground zero? That's where we're heading right off the bat? Probably not. That equipment is super expensive, and for the sake of just getting the lab up and going right now, I want to stick with what we're traditionally doing.
So Sammy asked if my chicken will be allowed in your shop.
Yes, absolutely. The chickens are part of the family. Now, there's something about chickens that, now, I don't know anything about chickens. We just like them. When we get our property, we're probably gonna have, like, instead of 50, you know.
Probably not 50, but yeah, we'll have some chickens. And
they'll be free range.
Yeah, our chickens now are free range, which is why we get them in our projects.
Yeah.
So Hopefully they won't be in the shop though. What will your lab have that university labs don't? Um, Probably nothing.
Probably a lot less than the university lab
Exactly.
has.
Okay, Dirt Patch 7. Hey guys, hey, glad you guys made it. Thank you. Michael Gross says hello from Eastern Oregon.
Hey, Michael.
When will you administer test or ASTM test?
That's why I want a lab, Doug.
Okay, Steve Cross says, I think a passive solar greenhouse might be a good use for aircrete. You get some insulation and it won't rot in humid environments.
I agree. That is one building I want to experiment is geothermal greenhouse using aircrete as part of the structure as well, and as part of the insulation. That is those things, and the hydroponic agriculture and the stuff where they're actually growing citric fruits and oranges, and when it's below zero outside inside these greenhouses. I think that is awesome, and that is one thing I would like to do on our property as well, is experiment with that.
So, is the metal reinforcement? Wait, the metal reinforcements are stronger on the surface and not in the center.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of comments, people saying that needs to be in the center. Well, you got to understand, it's probably about between 1/4 and 1/2 inch in on the bottom, and it'll be out on the surface on the top as well when we put the final layer. And are they stronger that way? Absolutely. Think of it like a piece of gypsum board or sheetrock. Sheetrock has paper on the outside of it, and that's what makes it super strong. You scratch that paper and it snaps. It's brittle. It's powder. It's weak. But it's super strong when you have that mesh or the paper on the outside. Now, if you had the paper on the inside, it would be a little bit strong, but it would still be a lot weaker than if you had two meshes, one on either side. So, yeah.
Okay, so Edwin says, watch the structure that forms when you add Fe2O3 iron oxide, or otherwise known as magnite,
Yeah.
with your suave surfactant water mixture under a microscope. Superlattice will be visible.
Whoa. Yeah, probably I'm going to have a microscope in our lab. I would like to see that. And
that sounds pretty cool.
Well, I've always been interested in different surfactants and whatnot, and adjuvants and what they can do. And we used to use them in the agriculture industry as a chemical delivery system, meaning when that fertilizer or the bug repellent or whatever hits the leaf, it would allow it to disperse evenly over the whole leaf, and it would take the surface tension of the water away. And surface tension, that's the stuff that like water skippers skip on. If you ever look at a glass of water, it rolls up the sides. That's surface tension. That's called the meniscus on them. But
have you considered aircrete larger bricks for masonry projects?
I have. Yeah, in fact, if you do research on the ones that they're doing over in Europe and whatnot that they don't allow in the United States, they're pretty incredible. The way they put them together and the way they interlock, but even to get good wall strength to the extent that they can, have a really strong wall, they make a big hollow hole in them, in most of them, and they'll pour them full of high strength concrete after they get them put up.
Hello from Central Coast, California.
Hello.
Deborah. Bert, could you make a 16 by 120 panel and let it cure for 28 days, then load the center point to a fail for horizontal panels?
That would be a fun test. 10 feet. I'm going to put horizontal panels on the roof. So that's a good idea. I'm going to do that test, and I'm going to do a video about it. The only way I would know to load it to failure right now is I'd probably just have to make a leverage arm jig and do the math on it. Force times distance equals torque, and positive rotation, whatever. But I would just add small amounts of sand out on the end of the leverage arm until that panel failed, and we'll just try and see how much like of a snow load my panels are going to be able to take on that shed.
So we got some more comments about love the chickens, Central Texas, love your humor, more please.
Thanks, Doug.
Free lab range chickens.
Free lab range chickens.
Have you considered working with the university? What's wrong with using the existing concrete labs?
I guess there's nothing wrong
Hello?
with using the existing concrete labs, except for to this extent. They are tooled up and set up for the specific testing of high strength concrete systems that are going in bridge abutments and on roads and whatnot. And I think they would, like, to give you an idea, probably their compression or gravimetric testers, I would say they have a hydraulic system on them that puts probably 10 pounds per second down, or something similar to that, anywhere from 4 to 10 pounds per second. I'm going to have a much slower system and a much different gravimetric tester that puts the pressure on slower, because we're working with a much lighter grade and lighter material. And so I just want to be able to do it in my own backyard. It's funny, when you get on YouTube, everybody wants stuff now. We want results now. We want to know what the end result is of this. And when you're working with aircrete, particularly with the cure time, it's it takes time. And for me to add that extra time of going to a lab or whatnot and submitting or having them come out, and it would be hugely expensive. I don't think people understand how expensive it is to have a certified lab technician come out and take a sample, just to pull the sample, because they have to do a certain amount of air entrainment tests and whatnot, and before they even take the sample and put it in the deal, and then it has to sit there in a certain environment for a certain amount of time before they even come pick up the sample. Then they have to make a trip back, pick it up. Then they have to take it to their lab. Then they have to put it in their curing facility, and all this stuff costs. I mean, it costs hundreds. We had clients that were construction companies that we would charge. Their bill for the whole year would be in the millions, and hundreds of thousands of dollars even for smaller construction companies.
Carlos says hello from Puerto Rico. Kathy says hi from Northwest Alabama. Doug is wondering if your goal from HDC a mix or a DIY research.
Both. I want to do research on on ways to make it accessible to the general public. Those university labs and the main engineering and materials testing labs that are set up right now, they're set up to make a profit and make money for themselves right now. I could do it so much cheaper if I had my own lab and my own equipment.
When are you going to publish your mix that we said we were going to put out weeks ago?
Well, I kept tweaking it and changing it just to get it to where I think it needs to be, and I pretty much got it there. So
if you guys don't know that Mr.
I have a hard time publishing these things and putting them out unless I know 1,000% that whoever just step by step follows those directions are going to get a similar result as to what I'm getting. Okay? And I go onto my site right now and I look at my reviews, and they're all good. They're like, oh, this mix worked good. They're easy to follow instructions. When I put it together, I got those results. And if there's any question in my mind, like let's say something happened and it started pouring rain on us, and so we covered these things up a little bit quicker than we should have, which is what happened on the first two panels that we unveiled. And it was in a little bit different environment, curing out and setting up, than the actual ones that I'm using on building for the bulk majority of it, it gives a question in my mind whether some element of the curing process there that didn't get followed because of an emergency or whatever caused a change in the situation and made it better or worse or whatever. And so I like to duplicate things several times.
Mainly, we just want to make sure
Yeah.
we get the right mix out for you so that it works good.
I mean, it would be nice. I could have released it and probably sold 200 or 300 mixes. Got as many messages that I got on it.
Okay, 3D still printer might help with a stronger and intricate aggregate possibilities.
I agree.
Wow.
3D printing is crazy. The stuff that they're doing, and the stuff that they're doing, you know, on a nanotechnology level with 3D printing is insane.
Do you know anything about Aceron, AAC? It seems like they're selling their aerated concrete products in the U.S.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. I know that there's been 3 or 4 different concerns with making these lightweight blocks that have gone out of business in the U.S. And people have messaged me and were wanting to finish a project because they couldn't get the blocks anymore and whatnot. And so I'm not sure about that. I'm sure there's going to be some things pop up.
I feel your pain. I have been working on something similar for years. One thing we're fighting is the continued pushback from authorities, only considering status quo ways of doing things. Michael.
That's right, and that's another reason. I want to get a system set up that you can pump out panels, DIY, that something you could do from home or whatnot, and put them together in a configuration that you could stand them up with an ASTM wall shear test, and it would pass. And if we can get the test done, and we can get the mock-up walls, and get them shear tested, and all these things I need a laboratory to do, and that's why we're doing a Kickstarter. A lot of people have wondered why we're doing a Kickstarter, and that's why.
What is the difference between what you are doing and perlite? Yeah, perlite. Are you just asking about putting perlite in cement to make it lighter and the difference between that and foam?
Yeah, because I use perlite in my aircrete. I'm not sure what he's asking.
In some of your mixes you do, not all. The scientific method is sharing how to see if your mix can be confirmed as true. What is the difference between aircrete and the mix for high-rise buildings, fire separation floors?
I'm not exactly sure.
We don't have their mix. We don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they have good ideas that buck the status quo, but end up making big problems. The testing is vital.
It is.
We agree that the testing is very vital.
The testing is very vital. Either to say, hey, no, this will never be viable, or, you know what? Yeah, it is. Because there's tons of building with it going on. I mean, there's like 16,000 aircrete manufacturing facilities overseas. I think there's like 2 or 3 in the United States, and they're only allowed to be used for certain things. And they build homes and everything else with them over there. Their building standards are obviously different than they are here, and maybe incremental changes to what they're doing need to be made here so that it would fall within the parameters of the building codes. But I want to work on doing that.
Scott had to go, and Tom says, I think aircrete dome houses would be perfect in Africa.
I think they would be too.
Right?
You know, particularly with that environment over there. Literally, all you'd have to do to have an air-conditioned home with a dome home is maybe put a layer of aircrete over a waterproof layer of aircrete that you could spray water onto, and as it evaporated off, it would cool the whole inside of the house. It'd be kind of cool.
It would be very cool. I think, I already read that one. I love the dog house you were making. It's looking good, bro.
Yeah. That's going to be fun.
It is looking good. It is going to be poured today, and so it'll start the curing process, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing, guys. We finally got some weather on our side. I need to put the coveralls on. We need to get out there and we need to
Right.
start pouring.
So which one of these is similar to the one that we're pouring in the doghouse? Is it this one?
Um, no, it's more similar to this one. Yeah, that's what we're going to be pouring in the doghouse and probably for the rest of the wall panels. And the reason why is we have the mesh on both sides, so it's going to be super strong.
Um,
And I'm going to do a little bit denser of a layer. I'm going to try and do a test where I do a panel in 2 layers, where I do a little bit denser of a layer on the inside and then a more aerated layer on the outside, so that I can put a waterproofing between the 2 layers and have that outside layer act as a cooling mechanism where you can just spray water on it and let it evaporate off the doghouse and keep it cool inside.
is your aircrete dome going to be made with triangles or one of the
It
monolithic?
is not going to be monolithic. It is going to be a geodesic. So it's going to be made with triangles. And I've already put together some jig systems to make the triangles. They have to be made at a certain angle depending on the size of the dome and how big it is and the size of the triangles. And so it's going to be done with triangles and it's going to be fastened together with these seismic like expansion joints on the corners and the roofing system to put a roof over these things I think will really surprise you.
We just got a really nice comment.
Oh,
So thanks for going live and answering all the questions. Keep up the good work.
Oh.
Thank you, GFW2. That is very kind. Thank you. Sammy Chung says, I'm interested in doing aircrete siding for my home. Would love to see what ideas you come up with.
That's I think that's awesome. And this shed that we're building, once we get it built, and once I fasten the last layer of wire mesh, we're gonna try and spray a siding layer of pretty dense aircrete, but it's gonna be nonetheless lightweight aircrete, using like a plaster sprayer. It'll be, I think aircrete would be the perfect consistency to spray through one of those with a pneumatic sprayer and just spray it on. And we'll have to do some tests. I don't know if I'm just going to spray it on and like the way it looks or if I'll have to trial it smooth and put some color on it. I don't know.
Have you checked out Jamie Mansell's Concrete Dome?
I've watched so many videos on different concrete domes, monolithic, geodesic. I've watched hundreds of them. I probably have watched it, but I'll double check and see if I have.
For wear surface, you might look at elephant armor, high strength, super fast setting, and good adhesion on existing concrete. It is on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen that stuff. I think it's incredible.
I can't get over how awkward the foamate looks with the flexible tubing coming off both ends. Are the lengths of the tubes critical? Is there any way you could route them differently?
They're not critical, and you can route them differently. Go on and look at the difference between my normal foam mate and the large tank foam mate. So I think we have a video called large tank foam mate. Just type it in and it'll come up. And you can watch me build a normal foam mate right in front of you and then watch me build a large tank foam mate. Because I wanted to offer an alternative for people so they could have one that made larger batches of foam.
The panels with the steel stud form should exceed a steel stud wall 16 on center, as you have 2 studs back to back 16 on center.
That's
and
true.
Will resist deforming with an aircrete core.
Yeah, it'll be double. So I think the shed is going to be awesome, super strong. I don't think it's going to be a sand house.
I agree. Carlos says, I would like to know if the aircrete can be used to make a roof. Here in Puerto Rico, we have a very strong climate. High temperatures and humidity could an additive be used for making a roof?
Yeah, it's just a matter of engineering a system to allow it to go on a roof. That's one thing I'm working on right now. And Douglas Paul says, "Thank you, Darwin, for all you are doing."
That is another really nice comment, Doug. Thank you so much. And Michael says, "Honeydews, please don't get discouraged. What you two are doing is providing is awesome." Thank you, Michael. That is another really nice comment.
And you know what? It's not only comments like that drive us and keep us going. It's also the critics. Those guys, some of my best ideas have come out from people asking good questions about what it is we're doing and questioning why we didn't do it a certain way or this or that. And
so then you are suggesting an aircrete insulating layer, then you would get a commercial siding on top of it. Is that what you are suggesting, Sammy?
No. No, I'm not going to put a commercial siding on top of the aircrete layer. No, not at all. I want it. It's going to be in large part. It's going to have quite a bit of hydrated lime in it, similar to a stucco mix. But I'm going to try and make it a little bit lighter without the aggregate that would be in a stucco, which would be sand, and moreover air. And so we have to put like a spray-on sealant, like a Thompson's water seal or something? Maybe. I don't know. This is all...
We're learning as we go.
We're learning as we go. This is the first one ever built, so...
Would you be willing to have a small class of volunteers to come and help and learn, or a paid class?
Yes. That's actually part of the packages that we're going to be offering in our Kickstarter are going to be... weekend classes for certain, they're a group of 10 people or a group of 5, or if you want an individual, they'll have different price points. But what's going to happen is we have these, we're just going to try and go bare bones. We're going to buy a piece of property. We're going to put some slabs down, put some Quonset hut steel buildings on it that will allow us to immediately have some type of a shop, because those go up pretty quickly. And then we're going to start insulating them with aircrete. Okay, that'll be the first project, is start insulating them with aircrete so that people kind of could get a feel of how you could do this. My whole goal, I'd like to get a spray aircrete, that we could spray aircrete on the inside of these steel buildings and work it that way. And I think we'll be able to come up with some type of a system to do that. We may have to put like some burlap meshes or different type of meshes between it on the way out of creating the right thickness, but that is one thing that we are going to do, is offer those as a part of the Kickstarter to allow people the opportunity to come out to the property and work on these projects and help us get the ball rolling. There's so many people and so much love out there, people who actually want to help with this process and get it moving. It's incredible.
We got another nice comment. Thank you both for sharing your time and ideas.
Okay.
Thank you, Shayla. Emerson, y'all for sure need a bigger screen to read comments off if you do this again.
Yeah, we probably should have a second.
We do all recording and everything off of my little Android phone. So, just so you know, it is small. Thumbs up, some smiley faces. Thanks, you guys. I'm totally getting excited about your journey with this. I would love to get involved as well as help with the funding. I have found you guys this past Sunday.
Awesome.
Oh, Sammy, that's amazing. Thank you, Mateo. Where are you guys located? Right now we are located in Idaho.
Yeah, we live in eastern Idaho, so it's kind of it's a good climate because it's high desert, so it gets really dry and hot certain times of the year. But then it's like high desert, so we have extreme high or low temperatures below freezing and lots of snow at times. And we also have times when it's very humid, so it's kind of a good area to do these experiments.
All right, so Michael says he has 11 acres in Moab, Utah, mountain biking capital of the world. That's pretty cool.
11 acres in Moab, Utah.
So are you building stuff on it, or are you just biking on it? I would love to spray aircrete, Michael Gross said. How would you spray on a layer of smooth and hard layer first, and then an aircrete filler like is done with concrete countertops? could use a fiberglass strengthener aggregate for the hard coat, for the out.
Yeah, anything that would go through a spray gun, any fiber mesh that's meant for that, you could put through. Well, we have so many projects to do. It's crazy.
We do. So you guys keep an eye. Oh, have a good day. See you later.